Welcome to this episode of Relatively Famous, the podcast where I, Chip White, interview relatives of famous people. My famous relative is Vanna White of Wheel of Fortune. It's my sister. That's why I think I can have a podcast about relatives of famous people. On today's episode, we get to meet Roger Miller's son, Dean Miller. I'm a huge fan of Roger's music, his musical Big River, so I'm super excited to have Dean on. And speaking of family, if you're looking for the perfect family vacation, be sure to go to visitmyrtlebeach.com. That's visitmyrtlebeach.com to plan your perfect vacation. Golf, fishing, swimming, surfing, restaurants, music. It's all there in Myrtle Beach. That's visitmyrtlebeach.com.
Relatively Famous podcast with Chip White.
Dean, welcome to Relatively Famous. I'm excited to have you on today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to just jump into a couple of my quick personal stories. Philip, our producer, and myself, Big River is our most beloved Broadway show. We both love it. He actually has a signed Big River album by your dad that was given by your dad to his friend at the Country Music Hall of Fame, who gave it to Philip as a gift. And I saw the Deaf Company version of Big River in L.A. in the 90s. Dude, it changed my perspective of theater.
I'm so glad you brought that up because nobody ever seems to talk about that or whatever. It's the most beautiful theater experience I've ever had. Oh. And my favorite thing in that play, first of all, it was very beautifully perceived. You know, it's based on Huck Finn, and so the stage design was designed like pages of a book, and the characters would actually come out of the pages of a book, which I thought was brilliant. But then the most brilliant thing happened in the big centerpiece song, Muddy Water. The cast was singing and signing along. And about halfway through, they just abruptly stopped singing, but continued the signing. And never in my life have I felt like I really understood what it felt like to be deaf. But at that moment, it makes it clear for the audience what it feels like to be deaf, because the music stops on a dime, but the signing continues. It was beautiful.
Oh, it's amazing. And I love the fact that they had dual characters, one singing and one signing. They didn't necessarily look alike, but they were dressed alike, and they would move in unison. I wish every play was like that.
It was one of the best pieces of theater I've ever seen.
So,
yes, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, no, and I was actually a DJ in a country western bar in Northern Beach called Cowboys Nightlife, and I used to play songs off Big River in the country club,
cool.
in the nightclub. You know, I just love that whole experience. What now? We've never talked, and of course everybody knows who your dad is in the music. And what do you do? I know you sing.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about Dean.
I call myself a recovering artist. I moved to Nashville to sing and write songs, which I did for a long time. I've been on multiple labels and had every kind of crazy bad deal you can have, and I've written for other artists. I've done everything there is to do in the music business. I produce records, and I produced everything from huge acts to independent acts to everything, but I produce a lot of records and a lot of independent projects. And in my 40s, things were not doing well in the music business for a certain period, and so I said, what do I love as much as music? And I said, I've got to do something else because the music business was driving me insane. So I said, well, I love dogs as much as I love music, and I had an affinity for working with dogs. So I developed a method of dog training, and I started teaching dogs, and I wrote a book about it. And I've been training dogs for years. And now, even though the music business is doing well for me, I still train dogs because I look at it as my kind of like my calling. I just love doing it, and it's very good for me. So I train dogs and I produce music. That's what I do.
Okay. What's the name of the book? Because I've got a couple of unruly dogs I could use some help with.
Okay. My book is called A Dog's Way. And it's really less of a training book, but it's more about learning how your dog thinks and is motivated and all those things. So it's like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know dogs thought that way. I didn't know dogs were motivated by that or felt that way. And so it's a kind of an understanding your dog book.
And you, as a kid, did you have this kind of ability? I hate to use the word ability. I don't know this, not dog
Yeah,
whisper, but did you have this ability like to really work with dogs, like get them to listen to you?
I had dogs all of my growing up. We had multiple dogs, but I had one dog that I was very close to, and I just had a rapport with him and a way of being with him. And I just knew I had a thing with dogs. I don't know what that is, but I knew I had a thing with them. And then as I started deciding to do it for a living, I started studying people's methods and I started going, well, I agree with that, but I really disagree with that. And that's totally off. And and I started realizing I knew more than I thought I knew. And I just started putting it all into a form. So I developed a method, and I promise I can go to your house in an hour and change your whole relationship with your dog. It's all based on the way they communicate with each other. So I
Now,
do that.
do you travel the country doing this, or is it like
I
local?
have, I have, I have a weird way of living now. My life is just such that it just all comes my way. I don't know. I don't have to work to. This sounds awful. Maybe not awful, but I don't work to try for things. They just kind of roll in. I've trained dogs so long that the word of mouth and the talking about it, people just call me. They just reach out to me, and I've been sent to Hawaii and Detroit and Ohio and I don't know, all over the place just to teach dogs, and I go teach dogs. So
Okay, I'm fascinated by that. I'm also fascinated by the music part. My wife was a musician. I sat on the couch and we spent some time in studios in LA when she was recording. And how has, you said it's coming back. How has that changed? 'Cause I remember, back then, like big giant boards and you were in a sound, but da-da-da. Now people are kind of like picking their phones up and making music. What's it like for you as a producer?
well, it's a really hard thing to explain to people how it works. I always say I spend half my life explaining to people what a producer does,
Me
but
too.
really it's like the director of a movie. So you go in the studio and here are five musicians and a singer looking at you and a song. Maybe somebody wrote it on their guitar, or maybe it's just a voice on a tape or something. And then they go, okay, go ahead and make a record. What do you want us to do? And you have to tell that room full of people what you want, how you want it, how it's supposed to go. And then as they play, you have to say, that's wrong, that's right, that's not what it is. My dad used to say it's like arranging furniture. You're in the room arranging furniture and trying to make the room look nice. So
Did you learn anything from him about producing? What?
everything. I learned everything about music from my dad. Um, it's an art form, but it's a business. It's creative, but it's a craft, and you have to find that balance. And I've always felt like the music business, and I'm sure the entertainment business in general, people are always wanting to tell you how it's done. This is how you do it. You got to do this. This is the way it's done. You got to have this format and this thing. And no, that way they won't put that on the radio, and they won't play that on Spotify or whatever. And so, the one thing my dad taught me is don't listen to any of that. Is just really listen to your voice and what your thing is coming out. And I have found that to be very helpful. I've learned a really diplomatic way of smiling and nodding and saying that's a really good idea, and then doing whatever I want to do anyway, and just not doing what people tell me to.
Well, he must have been a master at it because he's written some amazing hits, but he's also written some fun songs that, like you said, no one's ever going to play that, but yet we all know them.
Well, he started in the music business writing for other artists and trying to get a career going as a singer. And he had several singles deals on record labels. He had several misfires. He has a box set where you can really listen to that box set, and it's chronological. And you can hear where my dad spent the first part of his time in Nashville trying to sound like everything that was going on at the time. And then you can hear very clearly where he jumps off and decides to be himself. It's very clear on that. But what was happening was he was writing these songs and trying to fit in, but he would be at parties and stuff like that. I've got another call. I don't know if it's
No,
interfering with
you're
this,
good.
but I'll just wait a second.
So far, it's good.
Okay. Okay. So my dad was trying to he was having songs cut. He'd had songs cut by lots of other artists, Ray Price and Patsy Cline, and all different people had recorded his songs. But then I'm getting an echo back. Not
Uh-oh.
good.
Okay.
So all I can hear is myself. Anyway, he started writing these songs. Oh, it's gone. He started writing these songs that we would sing at parties and play, and like these what they call novelty songs. And somebody said, "Why don't you give Roger a deal on this subsidiary record label of Mercury, this small label that?" And they said, "Let him do those party songs, and we'll sell a few novelty albums and party records." And at the time, my dad had decided to quit the music business and move to LA and try to be an actor. So he said, "I need a certain amount of money to move to LA. If you'll just give me that money, I think it was $100 a song or something, I'll make this record for you and you can do whatever you want with it or whatever." And so they signed him for this one record deal or whatever it was. He makes the record and then he moves to LA. And he's trying to get acting and, taking acting lessons and all this stuff. And while he's doing that, they release this record and it blows up. It becomes this giant monster record. And in 3 days of recording, he was recording Dang Me Chug-a-Lug, England Swings, all these songs that went to be number one. He recorded those all in 3 days to just try to get out of town and make enough money to move. And so it turned into a career. So he was very happy about that.
Now, as a musician, singer, writer, do you follow his footsteps? What path were you trying to take?
Well, music was always a part of our house, and it just seemed natural to play guitar and make up your own songs and stuff. So I was doing that in my teens, but I really didn't believe in myself. I always thought, if your dad's Roger Miller, how do you go, "Hey, I write songs too"? So I kind of kept these things to myself. And honestly, I played a couple things for my dad. And when most parents would go, "Oh, you're so good, let's put you in a talent show," my dad would go, "Well, the bridge needs work, and this metaphor is too overused," and then, he'd break the song apart. So it really made me think, I don't think I have what it takes. So I detoured. I went to college. I studied acting. I did all these plays. I'm probably the only country singer that's a classically trained actor. And I got in a band in college, and I was playing with these guys who played country music. And I thought, I'm doing this acting thing to try to make it, and I'm doing this music thing because I love it. And so I thought, if I don't at least try this, I'm gonna feel like even if I fail, at least I tried it. So I started making these demos, and I started doing studio work, and somebody heard my tapes in Nashville, and I got flown here to have a record label meeting, and I didn't get that record deal, but it was enough for me to say, "You could do this. You can do this." Somebody believed enough to almost take a chance on you. And so I moved to Nashville.
Now, building a fan base, I'm lucky that we've had a lot of country music based children, siblings, different parts, and it's kind of like acting. We were all trying to make our own way. Were you hesitant of saying, I'm Roger Miller's son, or did you think it opened doors, or do you think it closed doors for you?
Well, when I first moved to town, my dad said to me, "I'm not going to make any calls on your behalf. I'm not going to do this for you. You have to do it on your own. Because if you don't do it on your own, you won't know if it happened because of me. And you also, if it's going to mean something to you, you have to do it on your own. Also, it's the hardest business in the world. And if you don't love it enough to bust your ass at it, then you shouldn't probably be doing it." So at the time, I was kind of mad about it. I was kind of like, "Oh, why can't you just call and get me a record deal?" But in retrospect, it was the wisest thing he could have done, because I had to work and get better. And I did that for a long time. I was fortunate to sign a music publishing deal that paid my bills for a while. And then it took me 4 years. I was here 4 years, and I got a record deal. And then I made records there. And everything that could go wrong with a record deal went wrong. And then I waited another 2 years, and then I signed another record deal, and everything that could go wrong went wrong there. And then they signed me to an independent label, and they shut down the label 2 weeks before my album was going to be released. So I've had every nightmare you can imagine as an artist. I've had a lot of songs recorded by other artists, but they never were giant, giant songs. I've always been just this under the radar workhorse in the music business, and somehow I just keep making a living at it, and I just keep doing it, and I just love doing it, so I just keep doing it.
Have you? It's probably a stupid question. Have you thought of using technology to do a duet with your dad, or did you ever record anything with your dad? Like, I don't do a lot of research. I like to have.
Oh yeah, we did. Well, we did one time. I did a duet with my dad. My dad wrote a song for me when I was 2, and it's called "Old Toy Trains." And we made a duet version of that. Was when I was on my second record deal, but that label never put my music out. They just kept recording stuff and never putting it out. And I think what they did in retrospect was they were doing what do they call that? Like research. There's a word for it. What's the word?
R&D.
Like yes, research on the music before it's released. Focus groups.
Oh yeah.
I think they were doing focus groups on this music, and then when they didn't get a good focus group meeting, they'd get nervous and not put the artist out. Because in retrospect, this label had signed 13 acts and only put out 2. So, and then they shut the label down. So it was a very crazy experience. It was frustrating. It was very frustrating.
Yeah. And you wonder why they shut down. You sign 13, you don't put anything out.
Right. But I made a duet with my dad there of this song "Old Toy Trains," and I think it's on the internet. I think it's on YouTube if you want to look it up.
I will. We'll put a link in the show notes because I think that people would totally dig that.
Okay.
This is a crazy question, but what did your childhood? What color was your childhood?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know how to. That's an interesting thing. I feel like I've lived 10 lifetimes in one. I was a young child in that swinging 60s period where it was like the Rat Pack, and my dad was moving and shaking in those circles. My dad was doing the Dean Martin show and the Tonight Show and all this stuff, and I was a little kid through all of that, and I remember tons of it. I remember going to the Brady Bunch set and the MASH set, and all these cool things, meeting Dean Martin, and my dad had a very rock and roll lifestyle. And then I also got to go through the 70s, which was different. The 80s, I was, in high school in the 80s. So I was like, really bad hair and members only jackets. And, I've had a lot of different phases of my life. In the 90s, I moved to Nashville. I made 90s country records. In the early 2000s, I started producing records and working for other people, which I still do. And then now I also, somewhere in there, I know I'm getting off track here, but somewhere in there, I went from making music as a hobby to a profession to a hobby again. I now write and make these records and put out my own music as an artist. And as I always like to say for my audience of 7, this music comes out every so often, and I just put it on Spotify because I can't help but write and sing. But as I get older, I don't have the energy to promote it. I don't want to do all the promotion part. I just want to go in the studio and make these records for people, which I do. I make a lot of records.
The promotion part is hard, man. It's with the podcast, it's the same thing. We're promoting, and we ask our guests, "Hey, will you promote this on your social media?" And they'll go, "Oh, yeah, I absolutely will." And it's crickets, So you're trying to get their episode out to their fans, but they're not helping get it out, and because it's a lot of work, man. And we're trying.
Well, as you know, this part's the fun part. The creative part's the fun part.
Yeah.
But the part about sitting down and editing videos and trying to think of new ways to promote, and that just gets exhausting after a while. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I've made films and television for years before I started doing this, and people are like, what's it like? And I what's the creative part? Look, it's a business. They ask me, like, hey, my kid wants to go to college for film. Where should he go? And I said, tell him to go to business school. and they look at
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the parents are like, yes, and the kids, their face drops. And so like, it's show business, man. It's a business, and you got to learn the business, and you got to know how to make a business. There are a million creative people made a million movies out there that no one's ever seen because they don't understand how to get it out there and the business part of it. Same with music.
That's right.
Like you said, you got a vault full of records that you made with a label that's just sitting there.
Yeah, and I can name you 20 acts on one hand. You know, in 1 minute, I can name you 20 acts that are brilliant that nobody has ever heard of, that deserve the biggest careers of all time, but nobody cares. And I can also name you 20 people who are absolutely terrible, who are at the top of their game and make millions. And so I often tell people, I have a joke. I always say, good has nothing to do with it. It really is like high school. Who's the most popular one, and why are they popular? I don't know. You know, I don't know why they're the most popular one.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I had Matt Axton, Hoyt Axton's son, and you know, I think of Hoyt and your dad as kind of similar in their whole lifestyles, the times they were, the music genres they were all doing, and the people they hung out with, you know. And here's Matt, man. He's like you. He's out there plugging away, and people, and it's amazing people that don't even remember his dad. I don't know if you have that issue.
Oh yeah, I have the strangest experience with that. Some people go, "Oh yeah," and some people go, "I don't know," and whatever. Oftentimes, I have to hum a song or remind them. I always say my dad's whole career was filled with stuff that when you mention it, people go, "I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that." You know.
Yeah.
I didn't know he won 11. I didn't know he won 11 Grammys. I didn't know Big River won 7 Tonys. I didn't know he had #1 songs by artists in every decade of his life. You know, whatever. People don't realize or remember. But
now, of all the siblings, are you the only one who went into the music business, or?
My dad had 7 kids, 3 marriages. You need a graph chart to follow it all. But no, I'm the only one who does music. The only one.
Do you sometimes wish, man, maybe I should have taken their path?
No, I never wish that, because the older I get, the more I feel like I'm living the life I was meant to live. And it's had some really rocky points, but one thing I've always done, good, bad, or indifferent, is I've said, I'm not going to go get a job I hate. I'm not going to go get a job because it's the right thing to do or for the financial reasons. I'm going to do what I love. I'm going to take risks. And by that same token, I've never been married. I've never had kids, because I just want to, it sounds selfish. I just want to do what I want to do. and I don't want to drag someone else through my crazy dreams that I've chased. But I have a lot of things that I want to be doing and believe in a way I want to live, and I just live that way.
Now, the whole dog thing still fascinates me. What's the most difficult dog that you've ever had to deal with, and how quickly were you able to change the dog's behavior?
Dogs, in a sense, are people. There are crazy ones, there are calm ones, there are aggressive ones, there are shy ones. You know, there's every kind of person and there's every kind of dog. But what I try to get people to do is to key into how they communicate. What is the language they use? What is the way their brain is wired to take in information? And that's consistent across all dogs. So whether they're aggressive, shy, whatever, it's none of that. It's do they understand what you're communicating to them? And that has so much to do with body language and sound and touch and all these things I could show you. But that's the key thing. And I also don't believe in the breed thing where people go, well, chows are mean and labs are really good family dogs. And I've seen terrible labs and great chows and awful chihuahuas and great chihuahuas. It's the individual. It's always the individual. And I just address each individual as I meet them.
Okay. What's the hardest dog owner you've had to train? Because that's a big key.
Well, owners are difficult all the time because they just can't grasp the simplicity of what I'm trying to teach them usually, or they're not committed to doing a certain thing, or they're set in their own ways, or the biggest problem I run up against all the time is getting a dog and babying it and baby talking it and treating it like a doll to the point that the dog is socially ruined. And then they call me and go, I can't control my dog. My dog won't do anything I want. And that it is truly like raising a child. You have to balance ice cream and Disneyland and love with structure and discipline and expectations, you know?
That's what I was about to say, man. That's the way too many people are raising their kids these days, and they wonder why the kid behaves and does what it does, and thinks that the world revolves around it.
Right.
What producing? You've named some amazing artists. Has anyone? And I'm not looking for dirt, man. Has there been anyone really just like difficult? It's like, man, why did I say yes?
Oh yeah, totally. I won't mention the names, but I'll tell you a story. I worked with this one artist who is well known, and she came in to sing on my dad's tribute album, and she was going to do a duet with an artist I love and respect a ton. And she was 30 or 45 minutes late to the session. She came in, she was rude to everyone. She had never listened to the song she was going to be recording, didn't even know it, started listening to it and learning it on the spot, couldn't get it. And every time she would make mistakes, she'd start getting mad at people around her. And at one point, she looked in the booth of the control room while she was singing. And there was an assistant engineer in the room. And she said, tell that guy to stop looking at me. And I thought, that is the most obnoxious thing I've ever seen in my life. And
did you keep her on the record?
Awful. She could not ever get the song right. She said she would come back another day to do it. We didn't ask her. We didn't arrange it. We just let it go. And then we brought in an incredibly well-known, great artist who came in and did that, no problem.
Yeah. Who's been the most awesome to work with?
Most of them are most people who are huge and known are easier to work with because they got there by being kind and decent and talented. I know Dolly Parton is just amazing. She's just an amazing, wonderful person. And I learned a lot from just being around her for an hour. I just thought just being around her, she controls a room with kindness. It's really interesting how she controls a business and the whole room, but she's kind. She's really nice.
I met her once when she had her TV show. I got to go, watch it and say hey real quick. And I'd love to be able to spend more time with her. So
was that the show on ABC? Was that the show on ABC?
Yeah, back in the 90s.
So
80s.
So my dad was hired to write on that show, to be a writer, because she said the funniest person I know is Roger Miller. And he said, I don't want to write for a TV show. And she said, you have to do it just for me. They were friends, And he said, okay, I'll do it on this condition. And he started making a list of conditions he thought they wouldn't meet because he didn't want to do it. So they met all his conditions. He moved out to LA to write for this show. They wanted him to go down to this, the offices or whatever, and meet with TV writers and sit in a room with TV writers and pitch ideas and tell ideas and all this stuff. And he went down there a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, and they were absolutely awful to him, condescending, rude, tried to make him feel like he didn't know what he was doing. He'd never written for television before. And so rather than make a scene or do anything, he just stopped going. He just stopped going and he stopped being there, and he waited for somebody to notice. And one day Dolly called and said, we notice you're not coming around to the show that we've hired you to do. He said, I'm not going to be treated like that. And Dolly said, I wouldn't want to be treated like that either. I totally understand. You shouldn't have to do that. And she let it all go, and everybody let it all go. But that's a testament to my dad. He wasn't going to fight you or cause a scene or whatever. You want to be awful to me? I just won't go.
Just won't go. That's amazing. Okay. So we're pretty much at our end of our time here. I don't want to keep you long.
Okay.
What's the one question I didn't ask you or something you really wanted to share that we didn't talk about?
Well, if anybody cares to listen to my music, it is out there on Spotify and everywhere. And I'm going to steal a joke from Howie Mandel. If you're looking for it, it's under Dean Miller. I shortened my name for show business. It used to be Dean Miller, but I shortened it for show business. Anyway, but if you look up Dean Miller, it's everywhere music is, and check it out. And that's the only thing I would add.
Absolutely. We'll put send us any links. We'll put any links to your music in our show notes.
Okay.
Cool. I love promoting. One last question: when you do live shows, do you have merchandise out front? Because every person I've had on here is like, "Dude, we live by the merch table."
I used to, but I don't play live much anymore because I don't like the hassle of it. That's awful. But I don't play live as much as I used to. I used to have merchandise. I do sell CDs and stuff. I don't know if anybody listens to CDs anymore, but I recommend that you buy a dozen at a time and use them as coasters. So if you're going to buy a CD, buy 12.
Perfect. Well, Dean,
Okay.
This has been awesome, man. I appreciate your time. And again, the whole dog thing,
Thank
I'm
you.
fascinated by that. I know we could talk music, but the dog is like, I love that, man. Here's this guy he's got this whole personality life over here.
Yeah, my dog website is thedogcounselor.com. I'm called the Dog Counselor.
Say that again.
So check it. Thedogcounselor.com.
Thedogcounselor.com. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dean, again, thank you for your time today. And hopefully our paths across. We may get to Nashville at some point. Sometimes our producer's brother and sister-in-law live out there. And we got a lot of people on our show that have been out there, so we need to come take everybody to dinner.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
All right, thanks, Dean.
All right, thanks.
You've been listening to Relatively Famous with Chip White. Please like and subscribe to Relatively Famous with Chip White.